The Tigers lose a close game to the Guardians. We'll talk about that, as well as breaking down an injury update for a few key players, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Tigers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. So check out Booking.com for your stay today. Welcome in, welcome all, everybody. Happy Wednesday, the halfway point in the week here. The Detroit Tigers play a ball game tonight against Cleveland at 6:40. We're going to talk about the 5-4 loss at the hands of the Guardians on Tuesday night, as well as give you some pretty big, I say big in the sense that the players we're talking about are important, not in the sense that there's any huge injury updates. Maybe one player is like kind of optimistic. Oh, they might actually be close. Outside of that, it's a lot of who knows, it might be a minute. So like not big in the excitement level, maybe, again, except for I guess maybe one player. But we'll get to that at the end of the show. Tigers lose 5-4 at the hands of the Guardians. We haven't done an episode where it's just like we're only talking about a loss in a while. Like obviously they lost on Sunday, but that was still a successful weekend. They still took 2 of 3 from Toronto and played that game tight as well. And they played this game tight. Obviously just a one-run loss. The Tigers are now 50-52 on the season. If you can't already tell, I'm really not heartbroken over this loss. They're really kind of between a rock and a hard place just in general with the pitching situation on Tuesday's game and then again on Thursday's game. And then if they don't figure out somebody who's going to play, or who's going to fill a lot of innings in said games going forward, then it's just going to keep reiterating itself and it's going to continue to be a problem. But we can talk about that a little bit later as well. Look, this is a first place team. This is a team in Cleveland that's 20 games over 500 after this win. You were down by a run going into the ninth, and they have the best reliever in baseball. And I'm not heartbroken about it. And that doesn't mean that there's not quite a few things that I was somewhat upset about, or anytime a game is within reach and kind of in your grasp and you can't take advantage, that's very frustrating. And the Tigers need to win as many games as they can from now until the trade deadline if they want to affect the front office's viewpoint of said trade deadline. So certainly a frustrating loss, no less. I get mad at every loss, really. I'm sure the players are too. I'm sure that's no different. But in the grand scheme of things, not going to lose sleep over it. In terms of what went wrong in this one, this was a bullpen game, and the bullpen wasn't awesome. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't fantastic either. And when you don't have anybody who's guaranteed going to go even 3 innings, nonetheless 4 or 5, you kind of need everybody to be really sharp. And it was pretty hit or miss. I guess I'll put it that way. Alex Faedo gives up a couple of home runs. We talk a lot about how his slider is such a good and effective pitch. Well, on the flip side of that, his fastball has been super hit or miss in his big league career, at least. So, his fastball got absolutely crushed in this ball game. Let's talk Joey Wentz for a second. Okay, Joey Wentz, I guess, was the quote-unquote bulk reliever in this game. I think he only threw 2 innings. Yeah, but nobody else even hit 2 innings thrown. So he technically was your bulk reliever. And he gave up 2 runs or 3 runs in 2 innings. Will Vest was responsible for Obviously, 2 of those, so take with all of that what you will. I understand the angle of, like he's a lefty, Joey Wentz, that is obviously, and how that affects his value and affects your bullpen makeup, right? But I really just don't know how much longer we can justify the Joey Wentz experience. This is somebody that I'm not going to say went to bat for. I prefaced a lot of my opinions of Joey Wentz in spring training with it probably won't work. Maybe I didn't say that, but like it might not work, right? But like this is somebody that I understood the logic for putting on the opening day roster, right? Okay, let's see what we have with him purely out of the bullpen. Let's see if we can make something out of him, have him rebound a little bit. He's a lefty. He has no options left, et cetera, et cetera. If you would have told me that he'd have an ERA over 5.6 and he would still be on the roster come like August 1st, if that ends up being the case, I probably wouldn't have been too thrilled with that back in March. So to me, the advantage of being a lefty reliever kind of goes out the window when you can only be used in the lowest of leverage of situations, right? The whole point of being a lefty reliever is being able to play the matchups and be able to, like AJ's really good at playing lefty matchups out of the bullpen and whatnot. And today was a little bit different, again, just because your bullpen is about to get absolutely torched and decimated in usage from now through Thursday, right? So like he had to just go, and there wasn't really, I'm sure they identified what part of the lineup they wanted to use him in, but it's still, he wasn't going 4 innings no matter what, and he also wasn't just going in to face one set of lefties. So like in general, though, I struggle to see the advantage that he brings this bullpen, other than we just don't have a lot of other options right now on the 40-man roster or in the minor leagues. There was one at-bat specifically, the home run. I don't have to really like beat around the bush. The home run to J-Ram was one of the most mind-boggling decisions I have seen. I don't know if that was his call. I don't know if that was Jake Rogers' call. I don't know if that was AJ Hinch's call, Chris Fenner. I don't know who was responsible for challenging J-Ram with a Joey Wentz fastball up in the zone. But they should probably look in the mirror and reevaluate some decision making. That is inexcusable in my eyes. That is egregious. The decision to, I don't care what the count is. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if the Tigers were up 30-2 or if they were down 50-0. Joey Wentz throwing a high fastball to J-Ram is not something anyone should ever call. And that happened in this ball game. I thought it was wild, I guess, to put it lightly. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling here. I say keep the ball rolling literally every time. I guess that's just like my go-to transition into a break. But got a few more relievers I want to talk about, have obviously some offense I want to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. We will get into all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Booking.com. Yeah, with summer travel heating up, especially for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rivals' cities. Look, Yankees fans go to Boston, have a great time, okay? We go to Cleveland, have a great time. Hopefully watch the Tigers win some ball games. I love going to Minnesota, catching a ball game there, rooting adamantly against the Twins on the field, but still getting great deals off the field and visiting the fantastic city that is Minneapolis. Look, they have hotels that overlook stadiums. They have family-friendly resorts. They have choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. And the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. So book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers, not you against anybody else. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You get in on all the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. And in the Prize Picks community, you can turn $10 into $1,000. That is 100 timesing your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You just pick more or less on certain stats. Again, starting pitching strikeouts, something we talk about all the time here, but Aaron Judge home runs, Nick Castellanos home runs. There's a ton of fun players to look at on the Prize Picks app. So download it today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping the third game of this 4-game set against Cleveland, as well as anything else surrounding the Tigers organization, as we always do. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today for free on YouTube, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, giving you the biggest and best news stories from the sports world from all of our great hosts here at Locked On. Again, you can stream or subscribe to the stream on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today, or check it out for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So let's keep the ball rolling, if you will. I don't know if you've heard that saying before. It's a really famous and popular and awesome one. So Will Vest pitched in this game. A stat that I wanted to bring up here, and I want to give credit where credit is due, because it was tweeted at me by a listener. It was Ben Gaupel. I believe I'm pronouncing the last name right. If I'm not, I apologize. Tweeted at me that Will Vest is now third in the Major League Baseball in inherited runs scored. Okay, so looked up the leaderboard, and sure enough, Ben here is spot on. MLB leaders in inherited runs scored: TJ McFarland, number 1, Fernando Cruz, number 2, Angel Zerpa tied with Fernando Cruz at number 2, and Will Vest, after this ball game, has 33 inherited runs scored, which is the third most. He's fourth on the list, but there's a tie for second in all of Major League Baseball. Okay. That's not great. And Will Vest's stats on the season, he's got an ERA a little bit over 3. But when you consider the fact that he is also giving up earned runs at one of the highest clips in the entire sport, it's not a great year. And he left a ton of pitches over the heart of the plate in this ballgame. My goodness. The J-Ram one, J-Ram's a freak. He hates the Tigers. I hope I find someone that loves me as much as J-Ram hates the Detroit Tigers, or loves me as much as J-Ram loves hitting against the Detroit Tigers. He's obviously one of the most infamous Detroit Tiger killers, certainly in my lifetime, if not in anybody's lifetime. But I think they said that's his 30th career homer against the Tigers. It's remarkable. He's putting up like an MVP season in his career against Detroit. So that one, whatever, that's a changeup at his ankles. He's a freak. He's a weirdo, and that's an incredible at-bat. But it's a lot of other ABs. Will Vest leaving a lot of sliders and fastballs over the heart of the plate in this ball game. So, like, all things considered, like, the Tigers didn't have a starting pitcher, and they did well enough to keep the game close, even without using Chafin or Foley. Some brutal performances still, as we've talked about, but like, all things considered, I don't know. You could have done a lot worse than 5 runs against a team that's 60-40. The offense scored 4 runs. It was really just choppy in this game. It wasn't a bad offensive performance. This wasn't an amazing start by Curry. Probably better than it should have been. It lowered his ERA, and he has not had a very good season, but I mean, you popped him for 2 runs in 4 innings. Like, that's certainly not terrible. And after that, Cleveland threw out their A-team bullpen, which is incredible. And it showed. They have a really, really good, we have a lead bullpen. the 4 or 5 guys they go to when they are in a close game late are phenomenal. And the Tigers even erasing that deficit and scoring twice and getting it back to a 1-run game is honestly nice to see. Again, all things considered, even though it fell short. So there just wasn't a lot of momentum offensively in this ball game. There was quite a few base runners. I think I had 6 or 7 hits, a few walks thrown in there as well. Especially in the later innings, they had a decent amount, not in the ninth, but in a decent amount of base runners. It's just they couldn't string a ton together, and the name of the game at the end of the day is momentum. So I don't think they actually had like that awful of a day, again, especially considering they're without Riley Greene and Kerry Carpenter, which we'll talk about in a second. That transitions us into what went right. Wenceel Perez. Clay Snowden, who is a fantastic follow on Twitter, very insightful baseball man, great dude. Just Baseball is the site he works for. He tweeted out the other day a picture that said Mr. it said a different word, but it makes stuff happen, we'll say, because we're a family-friendly show here, at least try to be. And I've never seen anything more accurate, right? Like, Wenceel Perez is never going to have high-end all-star numbers. He's never going to be like an MVP candidate or something. He just makes stuff happen. And I absolutely love the nickname, so I want to give Clay a lot of credit there. But he's the man. He's an absolute dog. Whatever you need out of Wenceel Perez on a game-to-game basis, he's probably not going to, tear the cover off and go, blow you out of the water and go way above and beyond, but he's going to do exactly what you need of him on a game-to-game basis, and I love the dude to death. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic season, and the home run in this game was obviously huge for momentum's sake. And then all of your 1 through 5 hitters got on base, and that's like a pretty low bar, right? I'm not trying to throw a parade, and I'm pretty sure they all only got on base exactly once. I think 4 of them, we had 1 hit, and then Vierling went over with a walk. So again, I'm not trying to like throw a parade or say that this was the greatest offensive performance ever just because the top 5 guys all got on base there. But again, without Kerry Carpenter and Riley Greene in this ball game to score 4 runs off of Cleveland, who didn't throw out their best starter, but threw out their A-team out of the pen, I'm not sure I was expecting too much more production. Like that's about, I don't know. I'm not trying to have like loser mentality, but that's about what I could ask for. And they've been winning a lot lately. So again, I'm really not too pressed about this loss. Jake Rogers goes 1 for 3, but even outside of the hit that he had, he was hitting the ball really hard, fly out to the warning track, crushing the baseball. Been seeing the ball a lot better lately. It's nice to see. And then I've never done this before, and I'm really sorry that I'm doing it against Cleveland of all teams. Emmanuel Clase is unreal. It certainly is not something that went right for the Tigers, but just to we're about to get into stuff. Just pretend like this is in stuff. Actually, we can just do that so I don't get yelled at by having something from an opposing team and what went right. But my goodness, that's a dude that I don't know how anyone gets a hit off of him. Legitimately, I don't. I don't know how anyone squares up a baseball. That is an 100-mile-an-hour cutter. You start swinging, like, you not only do you have to time it up, right? Not only do you have to time up 100 while also sitting on like the slider thing that he has that's 10 miles an hour slower. So not only do you have to time up 100 wherever it is, you also have to somehow get your barrel onto the baseball that moves as much as some people's sliders do, even though it's 100 miles an hour. I genuinely, I don't know how anyone hits it. I don't know how he doesn't have a 0 ERA every year. Like, for real. That dude is something disgusting. For my money, he's the best reliever in baseball. Yeah. Really, like, when I was watching the game, I was like, oh, man, like, you got to take advantage of this opportunity in the 8th. You got to score this run because there's no way on this green earth that that you're scoring off of Clase in the ninth there. I actually thought they hit him decently well for whatever it's worth, but was never going to happen. Okay, let's talk stuff. We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have so many great features at Game Time. Again, last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, so much more. They have zone deals, so you can save even more. If you just pick a section and then let Game Time pick the row and the seat, you can save a little bit of cash that way. And then they also have the Game Time guarantee, where they will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a ticket in the same row and seat for less. So your purchases also cover the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked on Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So let's talk stuff. Riley Greene did not play in this ball game, was a big talking point in this one, and because it was against a righty, right? And it's one thing when Riley Greene doesn't play against lefties. It's still, everybody gets frustrated. I get frustrated. We talked about that over the weekend, but it's a whole other ball game when he's not playing against a righty. That's usually not good. And we heard from AJ that they wanted to get him off his feet and off his legs. It sounded like specifically he has a history of leg injuries. He missed a chunk of last season because of, at the time, believed to be stress fractures in his legs. It is a huge priority for the Detroit Tigers to keep Riley Greene's legs healthy and keep this dude in the lineup. I cannot even express how detrimental it would be to the outlook of the season and honestly to the outlook of Riley Greene if he was to miss substantial time yet again. This dude has not even really come remotely close to playing a full Major League Baseball season in his career yet, despite the fact that this is the third season that he's been up. So it is a huge, huge, huge deal that he is healthy and that he can play the rest of the way. Now, that being said, I fully expect him to get some time, a lot of time, to be honest with you, at DH going forward for the foreseeable future. I would imagine that's where they're going to want to play him. I can't imagine he's going to play center field too terribly much. I also think that this is probably a lot easier to accommodate for if Parker Meadows is healthy and hitting the baseball, which we're 0 for 2 on so far in 2024. So, and we'll talk an injury update with Parker Meadows here in a second, but I do think that that would have a huge impact on how they view the Riley Greene situation going forward is if Parker Meadows is back healthy and hitting. Other things I noticed in this ball game before we move on, Cleveland, some really rough base running. Just kind of a weird thing I noticed. A couple of instances where they left 90 feet out there and just didn't advance. At least two, if not three separate instances where they could have pretty easily advanced 90 feet and didn't. Obviously, no one's the wiser. They won the ball game. Good for them, but was something I noticed in this one for sure. And then to wrap up and put a bow on the Greene conversation, Bly Madris getting the pinch hit opportunity later in the game. It's tough. It's really tough because in a perfect world in that situation, especially in the one in the 8th inning with Barlow on the mound, like you would just put Riley Greene out there. He didn't start. It's a righty. There you go. Boom. But if they were adamant on Riley Greene is not playing today or Riley Greene is not playing in the field today, then I guess you have to kind of maneuver a little bit more. But that's tough. Bly Madris just has not looked very good so far, unfortunately, in his Tigers tenure, in his Major League Tigers tenure. That is. And I don't know, that situation, I feel like probably in a perfect world looks a lot different than how it did. But I also don't know what the conversation was between the coaching staff of, does Riley Greene have any possibility of playing, et cetera, et cetera. But I just feel like I understand it was righty lefty and that's kind of what you wanted, but I think you almost have to have somebody else up in that situation in the batter's box with, again, especially Clase coming in the ninth. Like, you need a run. You need to score that run in the eighth. And you put Bly Madris out there. I feel like, I don't know, that frustrated me a little bit. I feel like that probably could have been handled a little bit better. But again, I'm not in the room. I'm not the team trainer. Certainly, notoriously, I'm not a doctor, even if it's not Riley Greene. Really, again, anybody. Like, I not to like make this sound like a huge, like I'm just slamming Bly Madris for no reason, but I just feel like you got to have somebody you trust a little bit more up in that situation. Poor base running by Cleveland, I already talked about. Injury updates. So the injury updates we got on Tuesday were that Kerry Carpenter is taking it slow. Look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if you've heard. I don't anticipate him to play too much baseball the rest of the way. They are taking this really cautiously. They keep talking about how they don't want to push him. They don't want to get him too active too quickly because then he's going to suffer another setback. They literally, one of the quotes today was, this is not going to be resolved until he takes a long, substantial amount of off time. I don't know why they would rush him back. The only scenario I see is, the Tigers do just rattle off a ton of wins here, catapult themselves back into a wild card picture, and we get into, mid-August or even start pushing September, and it's like, hey, we need, if he thinks he can swing a bat, we're going to throw him out there type of thing. Outside of that, I really find it hard to believe that he's going to get a ton of opportunities the rest of the way, which absolutely sucks. Parker Meadows, good news. This is the good news that we got out of this update. Base running on Wednesday. So today, as you're listening to this, which is great because it's a hamstring injury. Assuming that he doesn't have a setback there and is running and feels fine, I would anticipate that in the near future, he would get a rehab assignment, probably only last a few games, and then he would come back up, which is definitely what this team needs, especially if Riley Greene is not 100% healthy. Casey Mize is playing catch. It's not an arm injury anyway, so we're kind of just waiting for his leg to heal as well. And then Reese Olson is not throwing at all. So he's another one that I really don't anticipate. I don't expect to see Reese Olson for a while. I'm going to be honest. Anytime you start talking throwing arm, throwing shoulder, and he's completely shut down, which is the quote that was used, I'm not getting my hopes up to see that fine young man anytime soon. Unfortunately, tonight, the Tigers play the Guardians. You have Jack Flaherty against Tanner Bybee. Bybee, obviously, one of the better pitchers in starting pitchers in Cleveland's organization, but Jack Flaherty has had a phenomenal season. This sets up to be his second to last start before the trade deadline. So it is in everybody's best interest, whether you want to buy, sell, or stand pat, for him to pitch really well here. I still have no idea who's pitching on Thursday. No clue. I don't know if that's is it just going to be Kenta Maeda? Is it going to be another bullpen game? I'm not sure. The Tigers know currently. I don't know. Look, like, this was a tough game today, but like, you need your bullpen today. Jack Flaherty's going to go, he's been really good, but he hasn't gone super deep into ball games. He's good for about, 5 or 6. You have that. You're going to need 3 innings, 3 to 4 innings out of your pen. Hopefully not more than that on Wednesday. And then you're probably going to need your bullpen a lot again on Thursday. And then you don't have an off day and you just go into a weekend series. So like you're going to have a taxed bullpen if you don't already. You need someone that can eat some sort of innings. And yeah, you have a thin pitching staff and situation, I guess I'll say, right now. So I'm really, again, I know I've said it a few times, I'm not super upset with the loss today. You played a first place team that's 20 games over 500. really close, despite all of the things that I just laid out. That being said, you can't let it snowball. You can't say, okay, well, we taxed our bullpen completely on Tuesday, and that completely hosed us for Wednesday and Thursday, and now we're walking out of Cleveland with 1 of 3. Make it a 1-game, blip in the radar. Go out there, win the next 2. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow talking about all things surrounding the Tigers organization, as well as this game 3 from Cleveland. All right. Appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.